Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. E don done. E no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for wey you don help me for share this program. Yeah! God bless you.
Right, welcome back. The show is The Interview, and I'm Sammy Wise-Bangura. And in tonight's edition, we have the Leader of Opposition in Parliament, Honorable Cherno Ramadan Majuba. Good evening and welcome to The Interview.
Good evening and thank you very much.
All right. I'm going to start off with few clarifications that I want us to make. So first, quickly, let's talk about the extractive industry. I'm just going to take you on that. I mean, you're on record for saying that the SLPP government said when your party was in power, it entered into bad agreement, terribly causing this state and its people hugely and adverse effects on the economy. That's why when the president took over, in his words, he's going to sanitize the extractive industry because those agreements were not good for Sierra Leone and Sierra Leoneans, and people lost jobs. He said people are definitely going to lose their jobs because of the things and the reforms needed in the extractive industry. And we've seen SL mining in courts, Shandong has wrapped up, and King Ho has started mining. First off, what's your take with the extractive industry, the companies that have gone, the government saying there is need for sanity in that sector?
Thank you very much, Samuel. First and foremost, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity and having me in this program. But Samuel, I'll start by saying that the extractive industry today is far more chaotic than at any point in time in the history of Sierra Leone. The extractive industry, you just talked about the King Ho mining, that is just one of them. Right. They terminated the SL mining. We are now in court. We pray as patriotic citizens that eventually government and Sierra Leone wins that matter, because that is our prayer and that's our wish. Because as a nation, we should always be looking forward to what is good. But the extractive industry is far more chaotic and disorganized. We are still waiting for the many, many amendments they've been talking about. Going back to the 2009 Mines and Minerals Act, they said they wanted to review it. We've been 3 years down the line. It has still not been reviewed. We're still waiting for it. But if you go and see what is happening in the alluvial area, go to Kono, go to part of Tonkolili or the Baumau area where they are mining gold, alluvially, or the alluvial diamond mining, our waters have been polluted. Destruction to our environment is in the increase. There is definitely little or no sanity within the mining sector. You talked about King Ho. King Ho has been benefiting from our resources, and the result of that benefit, we don't know where it's coming from, because as I speak, we don't have an agreement before us in Parliament, nor do we have an agreement that has been ratified by us, which was entered, if they had won, between the government and King Ho mining. King Ho themselves, you know, I'm sure you heard about King Ho before now. This very government, the SLPP government of President Bio, terminated agreements that the previous government entered into with King Ho for their failure to comply with laws or conditions of their agreement. Their licenses were terminated by this government. The very King Ho that had their licenses terminated for failure to comply, they still owe people surface rents in areas they were doing exploration. That is the very company that our biggest iron ore deposits, the biggest iron ore reserve in the Fayengbaya area has been handed over to. How can you terminate or cancel licenses of a mining of a company for failure to comply, and you give your biggest iron ore deposit or reserve to that very company? It's an irony. But what is more important is that they are going about their business without complying with Section 40 of our Constitution. We don't have any agreement before Parliament. Without complying with the Mines and Minerals Act, we don't have any agreement before us. And there was a press release coming out from the NMA and the Ministry of Mines talking about offtake. What they're talking about, probably they've still not been informed properly, but it has nothing to do with offtake because they don't have an agreement with government. So the question of offtake don't have no place there.
Right.
So definitely the mining industry, the mining sector,
Right.
is far more chaotic than before, and we are 3 years down the line. We hope that they will go back to the drawing board and see what we should do. As I said in one of my interviews, a bad agreement is better than a non-agreement. And King Hu doesn't have an agreement. So if we had been criticizing, or even we are still criticizing what happened in the past, when there were agreements, they've been referred to as being bad. I wonder what we will say when we are operating in an environment where there is no agreement.
Right. Again, I'm going to take you to the infrastructure arrangement we have in this country. Let's go back to the new terminal being constructed at the Freetown International Airport, Lungi, and of course the bridge. And I mean, you're on record for saying those issues are being politicized. It's politics at the highest peak. Why and how?
Definitely, they are political. I am sure if the Mamama project was a project initiated by the President Bio-led government, they will have forged ahead with it. The cost in doing this so-called terminal, because they're doing a new terminal according to their own dreams and visions. The agreement had gone through Parliament, we've seen it. But when you look at the cost implications, the difference between that and constructing the new airport at Mamama, if it exists, is very, very marginal. And as you said, I'm on record. I still believe, and I'll repeat that again today, that the problem with Lungi is not a beautiful or modern airport. The problem is access. If we don't have an airport that is easily accessible, which Mamama will have provided, definitely we'll be wasting money. The construction of the bridge, we are still waiting for it. We hope it will be a reality because it will connect Freetown to Lungi. It will connect the west to the north or the northwest. But definitely that will not solve access to the airport because the distance itself from Freetown to Lungi is something else. There is a road that was done going through Port Loko that will assist in connectivity. But having an airport at Mamama will not be compared to doing a new terminal at the Lungi airport. As I said, it is political because, and I still believe in that, they just wanted to have a project which they will initiate from inception to conclusion. But people should remember that governance and government is continuous. Whatever you meet, if it is good, it's better you continue. They did not terminate the bridge at Obeye. They did not terminate the 3 bridges linking Bo to the Sierra Leone-Liberia border. They continued with them. They own. So why not continue with the Mamama Airport project, which will be easily accessible to people in the provinces and those in the western area. Going to Bo from Lungi will be the same distance. If you come with your flight and land, you will not come to Freetown to go to Bo. You will want to use the road through Port Loko. If you want to go to Makeni, you will do likewise. So if we had the airport at Mamama, it will have shortened the distance to the south or the east and the north, and likewise on to the west. So this new terminal will not serve the purpose for which we need a new airport.
So the argument the government has advanced with regards the new terminal at the Freetown International Airport has to do with cost. And you said if there is any, it's marginal. I mean, the difference between the new terminal being constructed and the Mamama Airport project. But the government has said, no, the Mamama Airport project was a loan that the government was going to take, and it was going to be a burden on the government of Sierra Leone, whilst the new terminal being constructed at the Freetown International Airport, those guys, they will come, I mean, finance it with their own money and they operate it to get their own money.
Thank you very much, Samuel. I just want to remind you that there is no free lunch. An investor will not invest just because they want to invest. They invest to get returns. But also, when you run an airport, Government will also look at the burden on its citizens and those that will be interested in coming to Sierra Leone. The cost, I will repeat again, is marginal. That is financially. But when you look at the value and access, Mamama will be cheaper compared to the new terminal at Lunge. It would have been easier for government to have asked those same investors, the Suma Group, if they want to do a BOT, to invest in the Mamama project, rather than going for a new terminal. Because that terminal, definitely, trust me again, in the long term, financially, it's going to cost Sierra Leone and its people more. It's not going to be for free. Whether it is BOT or PPP or what's not, at the end of the day, somebody is going to pay. Whether it's going to be the citizens directly or government through a loan. But it is not going to be an investment for free. They're going to invest now. Are they going to leave their money there? Is it going to be a charity? Is it going to be a grant? No. People are going to pay for it over time. So why not do the same at Mamama, when all of us, a place where all of us will have a new access, an easy access, and the possibility of a new city will be born. Because look at when you go to Accra, the airport area, it's a new area. People get excited when they go to Accra. Oh, Accra is beautiful. But most people just go around the airport and then return. They don't go into the Accra proper itself. So we will have had an opportunity to do something that will give us a new look and a new, basically a new face, so that when people come through the airport, they get easy access, but most importantly also, a plan of a new city will have been born.
Right. Let's talk again, another area within the infrastructure that is very critical has to do with electricity, energy supply. The president mentioned that yes, there are challenges. I mean, transformer theft, people vandalizing the infrastructure of the energy sector. There is also the issue of machines that are available, according to the president, to supply power. But the transmission lines, the cables, they are not adequate enough to receive and supply, I mean, the electricity. And besides, they inherited a very bad energy system or sector from the previous APC government that was just running on emergency things and spending money here and there, to a point that we had 2 ships, and now we have 1, and that is enough to supply. But people are still complaining for electricity supply in their houses.
Samuel, I said to one of your colleagues the other day that campaigning is easier when you use propaganda, but to govern, you cannot govern with propaganda. So use your propaganda to come into governance, but when you're in governance, it's real and you have to live with it. Electricity is tangible. You see it. It's visible. It's something you see. Even if you want to touch the lights, like the ones I'm saying, I can touch them.
Right.
But they are visible. I can see that there is electricity and there is light, there is energy. So basically, all of us know that people are complaining now that there is little or no energy. There is little or no electricity. We have frequent power cuts. Before April 4, 2018, I am sure the citizens of this country know, and they know as I speak, that definitely the energy and electricity generation they used to enjoy, they are not enjoying it today. And I agree with the president with the challenges. I totally agree with him. But these challenges were there before April 2018. But yes, people were still enjoying far more energy than they are enjoying today. And these machines that are available outside the T&D, the president referred to, most of them were around, if not all of them. We were cried down for using a car power ship. To say, they will be coming with a permanent solution. But not too long ago, in Parliament, we ratified an agreement that extended the lifespan of the car power ship in Sierra Leone for another period of 5 years. So it shows that what we were doing was right. Otherwise, they would not have continued with the car power ship if we were doing the wrong thing. But I want to assure you that if we were in governance, had we continued in 2018, we will have taken the energy level to a better place than where it is today, because we were making progress. We had identified the challenges and we accepted them. But when the SLPP were campaigning, they knew the challenges were there, but they told the public the opposite. And now they want to rely on the same challenges. The people will not listen. In 2023, definitely the people will tell them, thank you very much, and they will ask them for the exit.
Right. Let's move over to the economy. President Bio sounded very satisfied. He said he was satisfied with the team he has at the financial sector of his administration, because they're doing well. Policies have been put in place, especially when he inherited a battered economy, and it's very difficult to move a country that the economy is so battered to the state that he inherited it. And the team at Finance Ministry, Bank of Sierra Leone, they are doing extremely well, which is why they are still there. So if we are to go by what the president said, the confidence he has in that team, many people were on social media calling that, oh, they need to be, those people need to be fired and things like that. They've restored confidence. They've restored trust in international institutions like the IMF, the World Bank. They were gone, according to the president and his team. They were gone. But now when they came back, they were able to ensure they convinced them with transparency, with accountability. And now projects are ongoing. Programs are there established by the IMF that they are funding.
Samuel, I don't know where the IMF went. I did not know where they went. I do not know that where those answers or statements are coming from. The IMF had been with us, and they were with us till elections. But when elections are coming closer, the way you deal with these multinationals, the systems do change. But in December of 2017, the IMF program under our government was also approved by the board. So I don't know where they were or where they had gone to. Maybe they were in some place where nobody knows except them.
They never left. They didn't.
No, they did not. They did not. They were here. You still remember that when we had the issue that surrounded the fuel increase, there was an issue between the World Bank and governments, but we renegotiated and agreed, and the program continued. They never left. But again, the economy. The president is right. The minister and his team and the Ministry of Finance are working for him. If he's not satisfied, he will change them. But as an opposition, a majority of the Sierra Leoneans are not satisfied with the way the economy has been run. Most of us are not satisfied. The bread and butter we talked about, I don't know what you refer to as being battered, a battered economy. The economy is worse today, so if the economy was battered then I wonder what we'll refer to the economy today. The dollar was at 750, now it's at 1 million leones. So if the economy was battered then, this is not battered or broken, I'll need to look for a word. But definitely, and when they were campaigning, they knew the status of the economy. Nobody will tell you they never knew the status of the economy. They should not be in shock, because the current team at the Ministry of Finance, with the exception of the minister, we are in the Ministry of Finance. And they had been part of the economic policy of this country for the longest time. The financial secretary, his deputy now, who was director of budget, they were in the Ministry of Finance. And they knew the status of the economy then. They will not tell you that the economy was battered, because we were meeting our obligations with the IMF, debts were being paid. They were saying that we took so many debts. But go back to the books now. We have increased the debt so much that in 3 years, the debts we have incurred are so astronomical that it is not something you and I will want to talk about. So basically, the bread and butter we talked about that they were going to fix within 6 months had not been fixed. And 3 years down the line, 36 months, they are yet to fix the bread and butter. As I said, the economy then was far better than today. So if we are referring to that economy as being battered, when our obligations with the IMF and the World Bank were on track, when salaries were paid on time, when the dollar was not where it is today, I wonder what will refer this economy to be.
Let's get to education. Education, we're going to definitely divide that into two, but let's first deal with the basic and senior secondary education. The president introduced the free quality education in 2018, and now the statistics or data according to from government, over 2 million kids have been enrolled and retained in school. We have about 7,000 teachers retained, 5,000 more recruited. You have, for teachers who've been in the classroom for over a decade, they now have 2 or 3 of their kids acquiring free tertiary education. Is that something we should say kudos to the government for?
The program itself, the free education,
Right.
is something we should say kudos to government for. We must applaud them for being bold enough for taking those strides. But it will stop there. And Samuel, as an opposition, will continue to support this government to whichever extent they want to go in making sure that education is free. But we will go beyond in supporting them to make sure that free education also goes with quality. The statistics they are giving us, propaganda is easy. These figures are coming out from Statistics Sierra Leone. Where are the new classrooms? How many of them have been constructed? Where are these kids? Which classes are they using? Where are the buildings that are going on? In 2018, if you say you've increased enrollment to 2 million, when there were no new classrooms were added in 2018, when they came into governance, it shows that the infrastructure was there. And we met the budget, the education budget, at 3.5% in 2007. And we left it at 17.5% in 2018. Now the budget for education is about 21%. So it just shows you how far they have gone. They've not gone far from where we left. And don't forget, Samuel, that the primary education had always been free. Beke and WAS examination fees were paid, not just now, but before 2018. The girl child were enjoying their free education. They were having uniforms. So the primary school today, are they having free uniforms? Still no. So what has been added to the free education for primary kids? The feeding they're talking about, there have been challenges everywhere. We are not criticizing or condemning because we want to make sure that it succeeds. But we should not be talking about things that are not in existence. Subvention to schools either are late, or some of them not just late, they don't come in for a quarter or two. But as you say, you wanted to divide the schools from the higher institutions of learning.
Right.
So I also want to take the cue from where you want to. But definitely, we had gone far. We will continue to support them. But the quality is something we are yet to see. You see the results that are coming out for Beke and WAS and the NPSC. They are nothing to write home about. We hope that in the not too distant future, quality will come in to the free. But I'll tell you, Samuel, we had gone far, and we were doing ours with quality. That is why you'll see then the results we used to see from WAS or Beke or the NPSC are far better than today. So definitely we need to put all hands on deck in ensuring that the education we're talking about is not just free, but it also goes with quality, so that we don't invest our resources to develop our human capital, and then eventually it turns out to be money thrown away without human capital being achieved.
The president also spoke about technical and higher education, and he was asked specifically about the Linkokwing student saga. And he clearly said that they paid the first year fees for the students because, of course, as a result of quick action, a quick response to the issue whilst they are finding a lasting solution. But for over a year now, these students have not had access to university education or higher education. Some of them are either mining stones or involved in other things now, with no hope of continuing their tertiary education. Lecturers in public university were staging industrial action for salaries and conditions of service, which according to them up till now have not been met. You have students protesting like the IPAM issue for missing grades not being published and things like that. What's your take on the focus of the government on higher and technical education?
Thank you very much, Samuel. Samuel, firstly, let me say that when you finish school, your next point or stop is to go to the university. You don't want to get kids out of school and then there are no universities to enter into. When there are challenges in these institutions of higher learning, then all of us should be worried. I'll talk about the recent incident at IPAM last. The strike by university lecturers, these are all things that are of public knowledge. But don't forget also, apart from the subventions I talked about earlier for schools, the universities are also suffering same. They are highly challenged. But perhaps one thing you'll also like to know is the fact that the universities, we used to subvent even fees for students. That is no more. So parents who were finding it very difficult to even afford subvented fees, you just tell me what they're suffering now. So you don't want to get kids going to school, and when they finish school, they can't go to the university. We will be having a lot of dropouts. Because when you finish school and you want to go to university and you're unable to go, the challenge itself means a challenge not just for government, but will have wasted resources on brains that will have benefited our human capital that eventually we'll be losing. We'll not just be losing resources, but we'll be losing brains and the value they could add to society. But generally, the government has to do a lot more in making sure that our institutions of higher learning achieve their objectives, not just for lecturer strikes or sending subventions on time, but even the level at which they are interfering. Quite recently, we saw lecturers parading themselves as lecturers for SLPP, and people were applauding them. The universities must be apolitical. They should not be political, but that's where the foundation of society itself is actually found. What happened at the IPAM a few days ago is a shame. It's not just a shame for the institution, but also a shame for our law enforcement agencies, because look at the way they handle the students. That is not the way you treat your students. Education is a package. It's not just about paying fees, paying lecturers, or getting free education at primary and secondary school. Education is a package. The way you deal or interact with your students itself is part of education. What you give them is what they will bring out. If you give them garbage, they will bring out garbage. So the way you interact and deal with them says a lot in the way and manner you value or treat education within your administration.
Let's talk about health. For health sector, the government said it has improved the health sector tremendously, because even the ambulances that they met, I mean, some of whose engines were ripped off, badly left, they were able to repair them, rehabilitate them, and distribute them across the country. And that process has tremendously helped in salvaging the health plight of citizens across the country. According to them, they've also sanitized the distribution of free quality health drugs. Now there is an agency that procures, and government is now investing hugely. No more begging donors to come. So government is now taking the lead in some of these initiatives to help improve the lives of its citizens. What's your take?
Samuel, again, ambulances were ripped off, their engines removed. This is news to me, Samuel, because the ambulances had been there, they've been safe, and those who were in charge of those ambulances before April 2018 are still in charge. So if they had been ripped off, who were those that were brought to book for ripping out engines? Because they were in custody of people who are still in charge of the ambulances. I'll tell you, Samuel, that the ambulances were intact, and all they did was to distribute them. Nothing beyond that. And we should not be doing politics in everything we say. Like we talked about the free education just now, I applauded for what they've done. So we should be honest with ourselves. That is the only way the people also outside will take us seriously. The ambulances were there. The free health, which was launched by former President Nkrumah, it's a laudable venture. You yourself will confirm, you will not run away from that. As I said, government is continuous. Where we stopped, they could make progress. So if there were gaps and they are correcting those gaps, I want to say thank you to them. But definitely, the health sector is deteriorating from where we left it in 2018. You saw what happened at the Connaught Hospital quite recently. there were concerns by doctors. And out of those concerns, a particular lady, Dr. Cole, suffered physically. When we were in administration, when alarms were raised, when issues were mentioned, we go back to the drawing board and try to address the issues. We don't attack the people. What we do, go back to the drawing board. But the health system, I pray that with the coming of Dr. Dembe as minister, with his expertise, the health sector will be looked into with a critical eye and the issues addressed. We are told, and I think you heard about it as well, that up to date, there is no generator at the PCMH, the Oladiuin Center. So these are basic issues that should be addressed. I spoke to a doctor friend of mine quite recently. Basic drugs, not expensive, but basic drugs that most times are brought in by governments that should be at the central medical stores, like potassium and others, are not available at the central medical stores. And these are basic, and they are life-saving. So definitely, if anybody is telling you that there are improvements in the health sector, I will tell you no. And you just need to go down to the hospitals at Connaught, or you go up at Wilberforce at the military hospital. These, you talk to patients, you talk to doctors, the pains are there. But as I said, maybe with the coming of Dr. Dembe, we might see a U-turn again. But most of what they meet, whether it's in the energy sector, the water sector, infrastructure I will not want to talk about because there is little or nothing to talk about. The Regent Road we're talking about was signed by former President Nkrumah during his last trip in China. The bridges I talked about, Bo Kenema, had been signed and entered into construction, had started. Some of them had gone far, almost nearing completion. We are yet to see any major infrastructural project.
Right. Before I take you to recent happenings within the political space, let me quickly have your take on one of the areas the government, has been very vocal and vociferous about in terms of its achievements is the fight against corruption. The government has been very, very much bold and loud in saying the fight against corruption has been very aggressive, and they've taken it seriously than any other government, to a point they've been able to recover so many, a lot of cash that they've ring-fenced for the development of, again, the health sector, building hospitals and things like that. What do you make of the fight against corruption?
Samuel, I wonder how much money we're talking about that has been ring-fenced and where they are going to use that money. 3 years down the line again. Elections are in 2023. The people will not wait. We have been hearing about ring-fencing monies since 2018. And this is 2021, we're still talking about ring-fencing monies. The fight against corruption, initially, all of us joined the crusade. And we applauded the president because when he came in with that zeal. And the ACC started. But all we saw was them chasing either ghosts or members of the former administration, of the President Nkrumah administration. All of them. We are yet to see them chasing corruption as we talk about today. There are a lot of issues, be it in the Auditor General's reports or the Africanist Press. All of these, they have been referred to as allegations. The Auditor General, Parliament is working on their reports, but the ACC, we've been told quite recently that it's also looking into it, like they've done with some other audit reports in the past. But we are yet to see them chasing or investigating the actual people or issues we want them to chase or investigate. They are still chasing members of the former administration. It is better to deal with contemporary issues than to go to the past, because when you focus on the past, by the time you come back, contemporary issues will also look like past issues. It is better to address and nip issues on the board before they go to the next step. So basically, the ACC has a lot to do, and there is a lot of work we are still looking forward for them to do, and they should focus on modern and contemporary issues. Whilst they look at issues in the past, their main focus should presently be, their eyes should be focused on issues that are happening now. As I said, because when you go through publications of the Africanist Press, they publish figures. I will not say evidence, but they come with figures, they come with data, they come with facts that should be cross-checked. So we need a second look, wherein the government will tell us that check number so is not existing, or a transaction in this MDA between this and this that was referred to is not existing. These are the things we want to see, not just to give blanket statement to say, this is just PR. Or they should tell us that the check that was referred to, like they talked about the Japan, the president talked about that he met in Japan. Yeah, I was shocked, the debt we're talking about. Because government is continuous. If government changed, firstly, let me tell you, there was no debt. That is where I will start. Before going to the next point I want to make, there was no debt. When presidents go to these missions, the embassies in charge of those areas, they have their cards they normally use. They are the ones who are responsible to be doing these bookings. So the Ministry of Finance will transfer funds to the embassies, except the Ministry of Finance pays directly, which is normally not the case. In most instances, they transfer the funds to the embassies, and the embassies will have their credit cards, which they will use to do bookings. And then eventually that's where the hotels will take their monies from. And again, we've been told by the African Express that the president and his delegation, those that were listed in that publication, were the government of Japan took responsibility of their trip for hotels, etc. So these are the things we're saying that they should come out and tell and respond to specifics, not to give us blanket responses. The response or responses must be specific. But then definitely that hotel debt is something we should not be talking about in public, because it is not a debt that would have existed for an individual if we had been meeting our obligations with the IMF, as huge as they are. A hotel bill, all the good things they met and inherited, which they enjoyed, nobody has been talking about them. But they met a lot of good things. And those are the things we expect them to build upon and bring in new initiatives from their government perspective. A lot of promises were made in their manifesto. Let them tell us how far they've gone in accomplishing the manifesto. That is what the people want to hear, not what the APC did or did not do 36 months down the line. The people knew what the APC did, and they still know today what the APC did, whether it's in energy, it's the health sector, or it's in infrastructure, or it's in governance. The people know, and they're still going with it. So what they are telling them now is not what they want to hear. It's about what they have done in 36 months.
Let me take you to contemporary issues. First off, the midterm national census statistics is about to undertake. The statistician general, government operatives, they've all said the 2015 census that the then government conducted was faulty, and almost was politically motivated in creating new constituencies and districts for the new for the government then to have, I mean, a bit of wider political influence and environment. So there is need for a new census to be conducted, tagged the national midterm population census. And now the president has announced the date for its commencement. We're just waiting for that date to come. And but we've seen a lot of other political parties, including the APC, coming together forming a consortium of progressive political parties, calling on people not to participate or boycott the process because they feel it is going to be politicized. What's your view?
Samuel, I spoke with one of your colleagues the other day.
Right.
I granted an interview, and my position that day has still not changed. Firstly, let me take you back to the statement you made just now. That is to say the 2015 census was faulty.
Right.
Faulty where? They need to tell us. As I said, like you talked about the ambulances, etc. Don't tell us that the census was faulty and you don't tell us the areas where they were. That census, all political parties participated, and all of them, including the SLPP, applauded the census. All of them. And the census was conducted under the supervision of the international community. They were here, they provided expertise, and the census was graded as one of the best in the history of Sierra Leone. So if one of the best censuses in the history of Sierra Leone is faulty, I wonder which one again is not faulty. And if you go back to history, since 1911, all the censuses that had been conducted in Sierra Leone had not deviated from pattern up to 2015. I will take you back to the one they did in 2004. There is no variance from what was done in 2015. The population, the number, the demography, the pattern, nothing has changed. But you'll agree with me, Samuel, that what was achieved in 2015 in that census, this government is yet to implement even 1/3 of that census findings. Then you're talking about a midterm census, and you're saying something is faulty. It will be faulty because all those at the census now are new. When they came in 2018, they fired almost everybody at the census. The statistics, at the statistics office, they fired almost everybody. So they don't have the authority to talk about the census being faulty when they don't have the know-how or they were not part of the process. If you come in a house newly constructed and all of those that constructed the building are not part of those that are taking you for a conducted tour, how can you tell me about the house? They did not do the census. They did not conduct the census in 2015. And the staff, professionals, who were not politicians in their offices were fired because they were considered to be APC or something. And now you're talking about the midterm census. The creation of Falaba, a chiefdom in Koinadugu district then, not Falaba and Koinadugu now, was bigger than the whole of Bonth district. All of us know that if you want to distribute amenities by district, Koinadugu was just receiving one from the package of 12. When you had a chiefdom bigger than the whole of Bonth district. So the reasons advanced then are still tenable today. Because I will tell you today that still places like Falaba and Koinadugu, if you look at the land space and the population, as sparse as they are, their distribution by land space, they are still not being treated fairly. They are still not being treated fairly.
In what sense?
By the division we made.
Right.
But you cannot do everything overnight. But today, if you go back still to a place like Falaba, take Bonth or take Pujao and put it into Falaba. You will see what will be left of Falaba. You will create perhaps 2 more districts if you're looking at land spaces, at land size. But this one, definitely, we all know that it is politically motivated. Nobody should hide away. That is why I called on the president, and I'm requesting that for him, not just the faulty stats, the foundation they have in itself being faulty, because they are going about doing cartography without having the blessings of parliament. So all what they're doing as at now is illegal, it is unconstitutional, because Section 2 of the Census Act I referred to tells you about the procedure. If the president is desirous of carrying out a census, or the minister advises the president about the need for a census, a statutory instrument must be taken to parliament.
And that has not been
done.
That
has not been done. They've gone about doing their cartography. So all what they did is again waste of resources. So I'm calling on the president to see reason. I'm sure he was misadvised. Like in some other instances before that he had been misadvised. For him to see reason in calling off the census, because it will not serve the better good. The resources they want to put into the census could better be utilized to provide bread and butter for some of us who cannot afford. We need bread and butter on the table. But the census itself is not just unconstitutional or illegal, it is not necessary. And no one will tell me or anybody in the street that it is politically motivated. We have started hearing about the results or conclusions even before the going about of the census. So if you know the results, why then go to census? Why waste resources?
Right. Let me take you to the Cybercrime bill, which was taken to Parliament by the Ministry of Information and Communications. And the government pride itself for being democratic, for opening the democratic space and ensure that it gives the opportunity and rights, especially the freedom of expression, to every Sierra Leonean, to a point that, I mean, the president said where leaders have failed to venture, he has ventured. That is repealing Part 5 of the criminal libel law. But the introduction of the cybercrime bill, many, including lawyers, have condemned some provisions in that bill, saying those provisions are more monstrous than Part 5 of the criminal libel law that has been expunged, and because that was criminal in nature. What do you make of the cybercrime bill?
Samuel, again, Part 5 of the Public Order Act 1965. Right. I want to applaud the president again for being bold enough in getting his minister to Parliament to pilot that particular amendment of the 1965 Public Order Act. But like the minister said in Parliament, again, Rome was not built in a day. He acknowledged the effort of the former government under President Nkrumah because they started the ball rolling in 2015. But again, they started but did not conclude. So I will commend the president for that. Coming to the cyber bill, which is before us. Firstly, I want you to know that laws are made by Parliament. The executive has brought their proposal. And we appreciate the contributions of the public, / private citizens, the lawyers. We've not seen the bar association, but we've seen lawyers in isolation. Yeah. So I will not, that's why I acknowledged / but not the bar association. I'm a member of the bar, so I no offense. But we hope the bar association again will come out with a position. We're still waiting for it because they are professionals, and as lawyers, they should assist us in looking at that bill. But before I talk about what some of us will be looking at, I want to commend the minister. I have done it in private and I'll do it publicly again. The minister has been a listening minister, not just for this bill, but even the Part 5 of the Public Order Act. He was so zealous for the repeal because he wanted to go and tell the president that, look, Mr. President, I've done your job. But we had to follow procedures in Parliament. And he was patient enough. Eventually, he got what he wanted and what the citizen he wanted. But as we told him in Parliament that day, the Part 5 was part of the Public Order Act of 1965.
Right.
Who was in government then? The SLPP, under Sir Albert Magai, of blessed memory. Again, in 2020, the SLPP again, under President Madabio. So again, in Parliament, we'll say SO2, you will put, you put, now you pull, you pull. They brought it in 1965 and removed it in 2020. So we applaud them for removing it, not for bringing it then. We all need cyber laws, all of us. So having a cyber bill is very, very important. But laws should not be made for a group of individuals or a particular issue. Laws should be made generally for everybody. They should not be selective, and they must stand the test of time. That is why I want to, again, as I said, commend the minister. He's been patient enough. We told him to go around and do sensitization, whilst we do ours as well, because they've brought in their proposal. But laws are made by us. Unlike delegated legislations like statutory instruments, orders, rules, or regulations, if you bring it, it's either we accept it or we reject it. But for bills, you bring your bill in the form you want it, but we'll give it back to you in the form we want it. So we are continuously looking at the bill, and we are grateful to the public for their input, and we'll continue to look forward to the points they will bring in, because cyber laws should not replace laws that will muzzle freedom of speech or freedom of expression. So those areas that will muzzle freedom of speech or freedom of expression, I'm sure the president himself will not like. I'm sure the minister will not like. So when we look at the bill and address those areas adequately, as a parliament, not as a party, not as an opposition, because we are looking at the bill as a parliament. We are, and we believe that we will be speaking with one voice at the end of the day. I don't foresee any point where we will deviate from each other to the point that the debates or the discussions will take partisan lines.
On the bill?
On the bill, I don't foresee that. I hope so. Because so far we've been speaking with one voice. That is why the bill has been with us since last year.
Right.
And we've not rushed it. And generally as a parliament, we've been together. And fortunately, the leader of government business we have, Honorable Newma, came in with a different leadership style. There has been instances where we have disagreed. And when it's politics, and where we disagree, they will take their party positions, we'll take our positions. But generally, so far, he's done his best in making sure that he reaches out as best as he could. I mean, we're all there on our party ticket, so we have our pressures and party positions. But generally, he came in with a style that has worked so far for him, and I hope that he will continue in that direction, because generally speaking, we have to make sure that what we do should be for the good of Sierra Leone and the people we represent, and not the good for our individual political parties. But this bill, we will look at it and make sure that whenever it leaves Parliament, it should leave Parliament with pages that will benefit the people and not an individual or a particular group.
Right. Let's talk about the issue, another critical issue, taking away partisan politics from local councils. And the government said it's a way of increasing efficient and effective service delivery at the local level. Because when you have political parties represented in those elections, then there is tendency for even those councils that will be run by other political parties to be served by a central government that is run and headed by a different political party. Do you believe taking away partisan politics from local councils would bring efficient and effective service delivery to the local communities?
Before I even proceed, I will say no. Before I even proceed. And that particular justification to say that central government will normally starve councils that are not coming from their own political base.
Right.
It's a shame, because that is not a reason why central governments are elected. If we're saying that is the case, then it means that my constituency also, as a member of parliament, will be starved, because my party is the APC and the present government is the SLPP. That is not an excuse, and that is not tenable. People want to associate. People want to have control. Even in the most developed democracies, in the United States or the United Kingdom, local councils are partisan. But that is not a justification. If we have budgeted for councils, their budget should go to the councils. And if we were saying that, it will make for less political interference, etc., it will make for more political interference, because then the government will be in total control of councils. So definitely that is not, we will not support it. My party is not supporting it, and as a person outside my party, I will also not support it. It is also unconstitutional, because the constitution makes provision for parties to fill in candidates. So how are you going to deprive parties of filling in candidates when the constitution gives them that right to fill in candidates? And the very constitution makes room for independent candidates. If the people are satisfied that they don't want partisan politics at local level, let the people decide. But we should not decide as government. Let the people decide down. It is not a decision for central government, be it an APC government or an SLPP government. The people will decide, because at the end of the day, when they go to vote, if that is their wish, all of them will vote for the independent candidate and avoid the political party candidate. But they're still going ahead voting for the political party candidate.
Do you feel that's a ploy by the current party to actually
to control?
Kill?
No, not to kill.
Okay.
They want to control local administration. And one thing that is very clear is that they believe that the way local governance is administered today, they don't have the control they will want to. Because if it is just about subventions, that should not be an issue.
Right.
And if you're saying, if you depoliticize local councils, it will help development, then depoliticize politics generally. From the presidency to parliament, depoliticize everything. Let people contest for president as independent. Let them contest for parliament as independent. So there will be no more political parties. Then we close the PPRC. They have no use anymore. The reasons that have been advanced are political. They are not justifiable. The citizens have not called for independent candidates at local council levels. If they want to, all of them will rally around and vote for independent candidates. That is a simple way of coming to that conclusion. So let them allow the constitution to work. Let them allow the citizens to do what they want. Let them don't impose on the citizens.
Right. So as we round up, what do you think? I mean, if there are gains in the SLPP regime in the last 3 years that you would want to say, oh, I think these areas they've done a little bit more, and these areas are more challenging.
Before we go to that,
yes,
we might also want to talk about the mayor.
Right.
Because we just talked about local councils. We heard about the leaked audio quite recently. I deliberately used the word leaked because it was not a public statement. I believe that the Ministry of Local Government and those who are putting pressure on the mayor should also reconsider their stance. They must give her the space to work. We are partners in development. In opposition, we are government in waiting. And as I said to you earlier, in 2023, the people will vote out the SLPP because they've been disappointed by what they've done. We are partners in development. In parliament, I sit in the opposition bench, but I am part of government. So whenever government is doing something that is good, we always support. You've been following parliament. We've supported so many appointments, so many bills, so many agreements, because we have to support the development of the state as partners in development. They should look at the mayor as a partner in development. The mayor is definitely not a tribalist. You know I am not a tribalist. I will never support tribalism. I will not be part of tribalism. But this same mayor who was attacked by supporters of this government from the SLPP office, nothing came out of it. Nobody said anything. No civil society, no government statement. This same mayor who was attacked by a deputy minister then at the Ministry of Local Government during one of the cleaning exercises, nothing came out of it. Nobody said anything. So this leaked audio should not have been hyped to the extent to where it is. When we've had many others at the top making statements far worse than that leaked audio. And those statements have been made in public. They were not made in private.
Right.
Nobody called for investigations. If they want to carry out an administrative inquiry for employment or recruitment, it should not just be at the Freetown City Council. It should not be selective. Because when it is selective, it will come out as a targeted attack. If they want to do, the Ministry of Local Government has the capacity. Let them investigate all councils across the country. Let them do an administrative inquiry as far as recruitment are concerned from 2018 to date across all councils. But singling out just the Freetown City Council shows the continued target. People are targeting the Freetown City Council and the mayor in particular. For God's sake, I am not one of those who cry the gender cry, but we must protect women. When they are few, we protect them more. In this case, the mayor should be one of them. So when they are more, we get better politics, we've been told. So we are under an obligation to protect the mayor against the continuous harassment. Right. Let them treat the mayor as just one of the many local administrators in Sierra Leone. They should not look at her as the only local administrator. She's done a fantastic job. And she continues to do a good job. What the Ministry of Local Government should do is to support her, because when she succeeds in her local environment, then central government will also have succeeded. If the city is clean, government will succeed. Whatever the city council achieves, the eventual benefits goes to the central government. Right. Last year she had so many challenges when they were looking at the local tax, property tax, local tax. She was targeted as if she was the only one who had in the past talked about local tax or property tax. The cadastral system she talked about was nothing new. It has been operating in other councils within Sierra Leone. It is unfortunate that the Freetown City Council was behind. She was just trying to make sure that she's up to speed with other councils so that they will be on the same page and that development will move on side by side.
Right.
So basically, we must make sure that we look at things outside the political lens and allow administration to function, because governance is not in isolation. It is holistic.
Right. So finally, the things, are there any that you want to say the SLPP have done, has done pretty much well in these areas?
We talked about the free education.
Right.
That is something we will continue to applaud them, and it is something that each and every Sierra Leonean should appreciate. But as I said during the interview, education is a package. So we're looking forward to the quality, and the package should continue at the institutions of higher learning. So those things that will make the good students from school who are desirous of going to the university also achieve quality education at the university. And the beating we saw quite recently of that lady by the police brutality must be stopped. The responsibility of the police should be to protect our lives and properties and not to damage our lives and properties. All right. So what happened with the lady is something we should not condone and we will not tolerate, and all of us should say something about that. And I am sure that the Inspector General of Police will also not leave that line. I'm sure as the IG of the police and my brother at the Ministry of Internal Affairs will also look into that and ensure that those police officers who took that lady through that hell will also be brought to book. Those things should not happen. What happened at the Connaught Hospital again is something we are not happy with, and I'm sure the President in his wisdom, through the substantive minister in the ministry, will look at what happened at the Connaught Hospital. So the education, yes, we'll continue to applaud them for that, but we also will keep tapping the door to remind them that quality, which we will continue to support you with, is what we'll be looking at more, because we don't want to have people who think that they are educated, but they are not when they leave school. And that could only happen with quality. The fight against corruption, again, as I said, they started it well. They've continued it. And but the way it is going has not been too encouraging to us in the opposition and generally the right-thinking members of society. I'm sure many of them are in government, are also looking forward to a more robust anti-corruption commission. So we'll continue to support the ACC in actualizing their job, but they must come after contemporary issues. The history is gone now. 3 years down the line, you're still looking for ghost criminals. 3 years down the line, no. Let them focus and concentrate on contemporary issues. And again, there are many challenges. They've done very little or nothing in 3 years. So it's difficult to pick out some of these areas. But we'll encourage them, because when government succeeds, all of us will succeed. If there is bread and butter on the table, they will not choose a political party. If there is electricity, when light comes, I'll enjoy it, you will enjoy it, the president will enjoy it. They will not choose political parties. When the roads are good, all of us will ride on the road. So basically, we'll continue to support and push them in doing what is good. But so far, they've disappointed the public, they've disappointed us, and the people are waiting for them to go in 2023.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Chernoba, for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
And there you have it from the Leader of Opposition in Parliament, Honorable Chernoba Badan Majuba. And we've expressed concerns. We've talked about the highs. We've talked about the lows in the last 3 years of the SLPP regime and other contemporary issues. Until we meet again, this is the interview. My name is Samuel Weisbanger. A repeat of the show comes up on Friday at 11 p.m. Take care of yourself and stay blessed.
Yes, subscribe. You always dey watch we program them, but you not subscribe yet to the channel. All wetin you get for do, press this red subscribe button, and then you come over here and press this bell. To the bell option, press this one with all. It don't done. It no get for cost you anything. When you do this, na sign for show say you dey support we for make we do more. Thank you for you don help me for share this program. Yeah, God bless you.